All right, we are live. Hi, Phoenix. How are you tonight?
I am great. How are you doing, Naya?
I am doing awesome. Just enjoyed the last few holiday weekends that we had. So I'm feeling very refreshed going into the new year. While we wait for everyone to join in, tell me about how your holiday was. What did you get from Christmas and the new year?
Well, we had a good time. We took our kids and we drove down to the Keys because we didn't have a lot of time for any vacation. So we just took a couple days and went down there. And it was so beautiful. We went to this place that had a dolphin show. It's kind of like a half zoo, half aquarium, I guess, because they had bird shows and they had sea lion shows, and you could watch them, feed the sharks and stuff. And it was really fun. It was very refreshing, and I'm also ready for the kids to go back to school.
Yeah. I know there's that bittersweetness of you love having them at home, but also as a mom, it's nice to have a little bit of time to yourself. I see people are joining us, and if you're jumping on, I would love to know what you guys did to celebrate, whether it was Christmas or New Year's Eve or any of the other holidays that we've had. I would drop it in the comments. We'd love to know what you guys did. I kept it pretty chill this year. It was our first holiday in Florida, and it was great. So I'm excited to have you on, Phoenix. It's been a while since we've had you on Facebook Live. And, I think everyone's been missing our Rocky Mountain Oils founder. So tell us a little bit about what we're going to be going over today.
Okay, so I am really excited. We're going to be talking about feminine energy today. And this is something that I've been studying for several years, and I actually used it as a basis for my master's thesis a few years back. And one of the reasons I love teaching about it and I get really passionate about it is because I've watched the progression of women over the past century. And we have come a really, really long way. And I'm not implying that the work is done. I'm not implying that we've reached total equality or fairness or anything of that sort, but we have come a giant leap from where we were 100 years ago. And we've largely done it by going into like a push and a hustle and a hard working and almost what some would call a masculine energy, where we've gone and we've pushed and we've proved ourselves and we've worked so hard to get a seat at the table. We worked so hard to get equal rights. And incredible stuff has happened. And it is my belief that what has gotten us this far is not what's going to get us to the next level. And so what I've really looked at is, well, what is feminine energy? And as I looked into it, and the reason I also look into it is because women are getting so tired. That's why I think we need some changes to get us to the next place. We're getting more now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear people talk about feminine energy, it gets really confusing and vague. Like people say, oh, it's flow, it's fluid. And
Mm-hmm.
I've even said, well, what does flow mean to you? And they'll go, you just flow. And I'm like, that sounds wonderful, but I have no idea what you're saying. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started doing some research, and at first it just felt like I was working through the mud. Like I wasn't getting anything clear. And I was personally not satisfied with just kind of vague non-words. I thought, if we have fought this hard to become something, we ought to have something that we own that's
Mm-hmm.
unique to us and is not just generic words. And the closest I got was I came across different feminine archetypes taught by Carl Jung. And that's the closest I got, but I still felt it was inadequate because there were some of the archetypes that didn't cover everything about feminine energy. Feminine energy is not about roles. It's not about how we dress. It's not about our activities. It's about an actual essence and qualities that make up feminine energy, and that energy can exist in men as well. And so I was looking at the archetypes, and there were some things that were left out, in my opinion. And there was also a problem because it was so linear. So you have like the maiden and the mother, and so it still was tied to timelines and roles. And I was like, okay, this has got to be reworked. So I took all the research I did and I created what I call windows. And I created 7 because 7 is often a magical number for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I call them windows because it's the way we see the world and it's the way the world views us. And women typically will emphasize or put more energy into 1 to 3 of the 7, and then they'll have some that they're a little weaker on. And it's different for every woman. And as I started really digging in and creating these 7 windows, it was really exciting because we have our strengths in each window, and each one of them has a different reaction to fear. And so I call that the shadow side. When each one of them is in fear, there's a different reaction. For some, it might be anger. For some, it might be tears. For another, it might be manipulation. For another, it might be micromanaging. And it depends on which window is feeling that fear. And so then I put that all together, and I put together lists of how we can feed each one. And I created a 14-week course off of that, where we spend a whole 2 weeks on each one, really digging in, teaching how to embody each one, teaching how to make it automatic. So you don't have to think about, well, which one should I be in? It's just, you automatically know it's a reflex, and you can stay in the positive side and get out of shadow side very quickly. So I created this whole course. And so today I'm just going to give a really, really fast preview of each one of them. And I'm also, because this is for Rocky Mountain Oils and I am passionate about oils as well, I'm going to include which essential oils can help to trigger each window. So it helps awaken that window in each one of us. So that's
awesome.
Kind of the overview.
I love it. And for those who are joining us, she mentioned very briefly, this is the introduction to a 14-week course that she's created with her company, Dance Your Truth. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we will be giving a special offer to everyone who watches the webinar with us tonight to take the course with Phoenix. And it, like she said, 14 weeks going and diving in really deeply into these 7 windows, how to feed them, how to get into those positive sides, and a lot more. I know this is just the introduction, so I'm excited.
Yes. Yep. We will be giving a coupon, and we'll also be giving a free download as well. So
awesome. Well, let's get started. I can't wait to hear about it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to spend just a few minutes on each one, but we're going to start with one that is called the Independent Seeker. And I'm going to have some slides that I'll throw up for all our visual learners. But the Independent Seeker, as the name implies, some of her strengths are that she's very independent. She's very confident. She's very competitive, but not always with other people. A lot of it is a self-driven competitiveness. It's a competitiveness with herself. The other things are she owns her own life, meaning she has her intention that it's hers. She doesn't expect anyone to solve her problems for her. She's very, very assertive, very adventurous. I had the picture of her in nature because she does connect a lot to nature, because that's a source of adventures. That's a source of life. It very much feeds her. She's purpose and goal oriented. And when I say goal oriented, she's the one that's going to set the giant goals. So those of you out there who might be feeling like you resonate with this one, you probably set goals that are much bigger than a lot of your peers do. People may say, well, don't get your hopes up to you a lot. And you say, well, why not? I got to do this. She's protective. So when you think of the other windows, I a lot of times think of them like I have a boardroom of 7 women. And if the independent seeker feels protective, she'll protect all of the other ones. So it's kind of hard to even communicate with those different parts of you when she's in protective mode, because she's tough. And she's very beautiful. I think of like Wonder Woman, where she's still feminine and she still has that beauty and that love side to her, but she's just strong and powerful, and she's going to move forward no matter what. And when she's in fear, what shows up is the feminine rage. So she's the one that's going to argue, she's going to fight, and she also might do silent treatment, but she's going to do silent treatment because she's saying, forget it, I'll just do things myself. So that's a picture of the independent seeker. Each one of these windows also correlates with different chakras. And so on the list of oils, I've included chakra blends from our list of Rocky Mountain Oils chakra blends from our chakra kit. And this one would be the root chakra. So the very bottom one, basic instincts, that survival instinct. And so I've also included sage. That's a very good, or any really like woodsy oils are going to fit into this. Our blend called Majestic Breeze is also really good. So these are all ones that are going to activate that root chakra, that strength, That independent seeker, I would recommend that you put a few drops at the base of your spine. And then if you want a little bit more, I'd put it right at the top, like by your neck. So you get that whole spinal column going. So that's our independent seeker. She
I
is
love
very
it.
strong.
So tell me a little bit if this is one of your main windows that you find yourself living in most often, what are what are some of the strengths like outside of these? I know she's competitive, but I see her as maybe someone who's very driven in her career, but also when you talk about, the seeker, she's looking for so many different opportunities. And I kind of view myself in different phases of life of when you are looking for that. Is there anything else that you would share about the independent seeker?
Yeah, I like how you said driven. She's always moving. Like she's very physical and always moving. And she just always knows there's something big out there.
Mhm.
And it's such a beautiful theme because she'll never be a victim. Like
Mhm.
she will never be a victim. She'll never be blaming other people for her circumstances because she'll just go, I'll just solve it. I'll figure it out.
I love it. And I do have a question, and maybe you're getting to this at the end, but is there ways that we can maybe strengthen these windows that we're not as comfortable in?
Yes. So that's a really great question because there's two things I say. Basically, the answer is we should strengthen all of them because as women, we desire to expand and we desire to integrate. And so expansion and integration both involve strengthening all of them. But if this is your primary, you want to feed her every day or else you'll just feel really icky and unhappy. So feeding
Mhm.
her by having adventures, going on adventures, if it's not your primary, you want to strengthen her so she can be a solid member of your boardroom where you can
Mhm.
call on her when needed. Because maybe if she's not your strength, you find yourself getting trampled on or feeling helpless a lot. And so by strengthening her, by it's simple things, just saying, I'm going to do a task all by myself that sometimes I ask people for help on. Or I'm going to play a game with someone that's really competitive and that might make me uncomfortable normally, but I'm going to push through. So,
I love
and that's,
that.
I go through a ton more than that in my course. I talk about breath work that you can use, music, movement, all kinds of things. So it's just like, it's easy by the time you're done.
Perfect. I love it. And for those of you watching, as you're learning about these 7 windows, I would love for you guys to comment on which ones you see yourself in very strongly. Are you the independent seeker, someone who's always looking for adventure or maybe naturally more competitive? If that's you, drop a little comment so we can
Yeah.
see everyone's different personalities and strengths that they have. So, are we ready to move on to the next slide?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. All right.
This is our passionate creator. So she is a beautiful, beautiful being. She's one that is not just creative, but she tends to be drawn to the arts or artistic things. And that doesn't necessarily just mean drama, dance, music. That can be any type of creation, whether that's home decorating, whether that's design, whether that's, you know, creating an environment at a workplace. She's going to be the one that's always wanting to create where she is. That comes out of me when I say create the content for this webinar. That's when
Mhm.
it comes out for me. She's very attractive, magnetic. So people are drawn to passionate people. So you think of when someone is talking about something that really excites them, even if it's something you're not even interested, you find yourself leaning in.
Mhm.
She's very attractive. She's into love and connection. Those relationships are so important to her because she's so passionate that she has to have an outlet and a person to connect that with. Sensuality. So this is not just about sexuality. Sensuality has more to do with our senses and the awakening of the senses. So passionate creator is the one that's going to be more aware of the visual sights around them. They're going to be more aware of touch and taste and smell. They're going to be just constantly aware because it's all material for creation. It's all a part of
Mhm.
creation. They're very inspiring, again, passionate. So they're going to be the ones where you're going to be like, wow, you're just really intense. You're emotionally driven. They have an abundance mindset. And that's interesting because what I mean by that is there's always an opportunity within their creations, meaning a lot of artists are not financially well off. And so there has to be this sense in them that they're still going to get what they need. And so while it may not appear as an abundance mindset, it really is that they can survive off of very little, because their creations will fuel them. And they live a pleasure-filled life, whatever that looks like. That can turn into addictions. That can turn into healthy things. That can turn into just an awareness. It can turn into a lot of things because they are very aware of pleasure and senses. For their shadow side, they're the ones that are going to go into drama and manipulation. And that's the reputation, unfortunately, that a lot of artists have. So that is when they're in fear, though. And when we can look at each one of these windows and say, it's when they're in fear, they're scared. They're not trying to be difficult. They're just scared. Then we can have a little more compassion. So that's just a little side note to be able to love not only ourselves, but each other more. This one connects to the sacral chakra, of course, because that's the chakra that's all about creation. It's all about sensuality and relationships. So we have our sacral chakra blend. Also jasmine. Jasmine is a flower. So typically the flowers tend to be for the upper chakras, but jasmine's a really intense flower. So that's a lot stronger smell. And also cinnamon. I recommend on these ones, I tend to recommend you diffuse them. You can place them on your skin near your sacral chakra, but I do recommend diffusing because they're stronger and they're hotter oils. Cinnamon's a very strong oil, so you want to be very careful with that. I actually, on the sacral chakra blend, it's one of two blends on the chakra kit that I personally helped develop because it was so specific that we needed a specific blend of oils to make it that passion, that strength, that flow and everything. Oh, see, I use the word flow. Gosh, it's stuck in me now.
There you go. I love it.
But that's how I'd recommend that we work with a passionate creator. She's beautiful. She's passionate. She has to be creating or she gets very emotional.
I love it. So one thing that I wanted to comment on was when you're talking about attractive. At first, I thought you meant attractive physically, right? Like a physical appearance. But as you're talking, I realized when we're saying the word attractive in these windows, we're talking about the actual like magnetic like force, like that we're attracted, like we feel like we can't step away from them. And I think that's such an important mindset for us to get into as women because society and ourselves, we'd love to put these standards on what we look like versus how we actually just are. And the whole idea of like beautiful from the inside out, we say it, we don't actually believe it, but these windows allow us to actually step into those powers and be attractive in these different senses. And I
Yes,
loved that.
exactly. And that's the thing that I think as women we don't really understand. And
Mhm.
that is that men and women are drawn to us when we're alive.
Mhm.
They're not actually as obsessed with physical appearance as we think they are.
Mhm.
They're drawn to our aliveness, our essence, our joy, our sense of freedom.
Yeah,
And so it's
definitely.
very attractive.
No, it is, and I love, the passionate creator. I see a lot of myself, and maybe it's the marketing side of me that loves to be creating and very visual. I was a dancer growing up, but there is that idea of passion does drive people to be drawn to you. No one likes to really sit next to or talk to someone who's quite monotone and boring, but when you bring that passion, whatever it is, it's going to shine through. So I
Absolutely.
love this window.
Yes. Yes, I can totally see that in you.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Next one, nurture healer. I just love this picture because of the sculpture holding up the tree, and that's really what our nurture healers do. They hold people up. They lift people up and they help hold society together because they care so much about loving people and showing up in the place of love.
Mhm.
So some of the strengths are nurturing and nourishing. So I'm going to explain the difference because those are different than each other. Nourishing, think of feeding. So when you nourish your body, you're feeding your body something that it needs. So someone that is nourishing to other people is feeding them something they need. That can be emotionally, physically, mentally. They're creating something that someone's needing. Nurturing is more about encouragement. It's
Mhm.
about building. It's about lifting up. And of course they can overlap. They're also very warm, they're inviting, they're down to earth. You're very comfortable with them. You feel safe with them. They're very into family and community. And for some of them, their family is their community. And for some of them, their community is their family. Depends on their specific setup. So they might be really into their neighborhood or into groups and organizations or helping at their kids' schools. They have unconditional love. This means they show up in love because they are love. They're not showing up to receive anything. Your passionate creator might have a different connection with the way they love. They're still loving in a beautiful way. It's just different. Whereas this is just complete unconditional love. They love because you are part of their family. Love and safety. They're heart-centered. They have very genuine connections. You don't ever have to wonder if they really do care about you. It is so sincere. They're comfortable with a range of emotions because their center is in the heart, and it's obviously the heart chakra is their chakra. So that is where having a range of emotions is part of functioning correctly. They're patient, they're present, they're supportive. They're the ones that will just sit there and listen to you tell about your day, and the most boring parts of your day are going to matter to them. My mother was a perfect example of this. And she would just sit and listen to all 9 of her kids as if we were the most interesting thing on the planet to her. And she would make us feel like $1,000,000. So it's hard to find the shadow side of such a loving character, but they do have one. And that is, or they have several actually, but I'm only mentioning a few here. The main ones are they can be very codependent. So they have a hard time knowing who they are outside of the people they serve. And they can also overgive. And that could sound like a fake weakness, kind of like at job interviews when they say, hey, what's your weakness? And someone says, well, I'm just so organized. And they're like, that's not really a weakness. You're just trying to make yourself sound good. No, overgiving can be huge because we have to inhale and exhale. And if we keep exhaling, we start to run out of oxygen, which means we have less to give. And so when we overgive, we actually start diluting down the quality of what we're giving. And that's actually very selfish. And so having to make sure that we inhale. And it's because she gets into fear and she's afraid that if she's not giving, that she's not fulfilling her purpose. She's not of value to others. So that's where that shadow side shows up when she's in fear. And then, like I said, the heart chakra blend. Also, rose is really, honestly, the best oil for the heart. Just hands down. Now, rose tends to run a little expensive. So our blend of rose is just as effective. If anything, the neat rose is a little strong anyway. And so the blend of rose is a great option for those who don't want to get the pure rose. But the rose is also in the heart chakra blend. And then also our love blend is very good for activating that love. That's why we call it love. And I would recommend just putting on the heart center. You can also diffuse it. But that's the basics of our nurturer healer. She's beautiful. She's loving. She's very, very, very kind and considerate of others.
She sounds absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of us probably think of our mothers. You mentioned earlier when you're talking about the archetypes of women, and it was, maiden, mother, and it was too linear. But this I see is maybe, I'm assuming, but bringing in those motherly qualities that women naturally have, whether it's to children or to your pet or to your friends or community. I think we have those maternal instincts very naturally in most of us. But I wanted to go back to the overgiving. And you mentioned, it seems like a fake weakness, but it is very true. The whole idea of you can't fill up someone's cup unless your own cup is full. You can't, eventually you run out of what you're able to give. And I think sometimes women, and I see myself in this, it's just, yeah, you do feel unworthy if you don't have something to give to someone. It's like you absolutely have to, otherwise it's going to sound a little harsh, but worthless, that's just what it comes down to. So what are ways that you can feed this personality window or feminine
So if
window?
she's not your strength, listening to other people, listening to learn about them, just sit with them and spend time trying to understand what's important to them. One of the best ways to listen is to listen, not to speak. Most of us listen to think of what we should say next. We listen to respond. But if instead we listen and we say, how can I learn more about this person and what's important to them? That's a huge way to help feed her. Just loving, just giving service. Again, if this is not your strength, finding ways to serve. And service can happen many different ways. It can happen in physical ways, like we help someone with their groceries or their yard or babysitting their kids. But it can also happen by listening, by talking, by giving encouragement, by making a card for someone. I mean, there's so many different love languages that we can speak in. If one of them's not as natural, going to the one that is natural and saying, well, how do I like to receive love? And I can start there. And then
Mhm.
eventually we transition to how can I give them love in their language?
I love it.
So,
There we go.
and I also want to say, as we move on to this next one, that all of these are in all of us. They just might be a little quieter.
Mm.
So careful for any of you that are feeling like some of these are really weak. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's in you. You just maybe haven't fed it as much as some of the others. And so that's all it is. There's no shoulds. None of them are better than each other. Some of these might sound better because maybe it's your weakness. So you think, oh, that's the one I should be. But they're all needed equally. So our next one is our spiritual intuitive. Obviously, this one connects to our crown chakra because this is our connection. This has nothing to do with specific dogma or religion or anything. It has to do with that connection to intuition, to higher power, to seeking answers that are on a higher plane. This is where you're going to see people spending time meditating, spending time in contemplation, spending time trying to understand what that inner soul part of them is.
Mhm.
And so this is one of the beautiful things as far as the list of strengths go for the spiritual intuitive. One of the things that's really beautiful about her is that she has a gigantic priority on tranquility and inner peace. So when we compare her to, say, the independent seeker, she does not prioritize those things at all. Her
Mhm.
priority is on freedom and adventure. And so it's just, this is a good juxtapose to show how we have so many different parts of us. And that's why sometimes women are thought of as crazy, because we have so many sides and we can switch between them really quickly. So she can be prayerful, spiritual. She's relaxed and serene. She's warm and magnetic. Now, this is a different kind of magnetic. She's either magnetic or she's repelling, because I don't mean repelling down a mountain. I mean pushing away, because people either see what she has and go, I want more of that in me. Or they see what she has and they say, I don't have that. I feel uncomfortable that she does. And
Mm.
so then they might be more judgmental. So she's more intentional. She's going to move a little slower in her decisions and in what she does, because she wants to be very specific and make sure that she feels aligned with what she's doing. Introspective, can tend to be more introverted, not necessarily, but she can be. She's very awake and aware of what's going on. I don't mean woke. I just mean she's very conscientious of her journey. 100% responsibility. She's not one that's going to be blaming other people. She's one that will quickly catch when she's out of line, because she wants to be in alignment, and she cannot feel that inner peace and tranquility when she's at war with herself or others. And so she's going to take responsibility quickly so she can move through it. So she has a different kind of intuition than some of the other ones. Her intuition is based on feelings, guts, and instincts. And I'll come back to this on one of the future ones. And like I said, she's very integrated. Of all of them, she's the most integrated. She's not perfect, but she is a lot more integrated because that's part of that inner peace. And she has a lot of fulfillment. So when she's in fear, her shadow side comes out, and that can come out as holier than thou, and it can come out as very disconnected. She will just get frustrated with maybe the chaos of human interaction and just go, I'm out. I need my peace. And that can be very distancing and cause trouble in relationships. And so
Mhm.
that's her fear side coming in. It activates that, well, I know I can find inner peace by myself. And so she'll disconnect. So for crown chakra, I mentioned earlier, a lot of floral scents are very high vibrational, so they fit with the crown chakra. Neroli is a big one. I love neroli. I think it smells very good. And lavender is probably the most fitting one for the crown chakra because of the vibration it emits and the color energy. It does emit violet energy. Also, our crown chakra blend. So these are ones you can diffuse, or you can put them on your crown or even on your temples to help with activating all of that energy, or even the very back. Like if you think some have a stronger kind of ledge on the back of your skull where it turns into your neck. Some it kind of blends right in, but there's that little ledge where your skull ends and where it gets soft. So right there is also a great spot when you're wanting to work on the intuition side of the spiritual intuitive. But she's very beautiful, and Again, she is very valuable, but she's not more valuable than the others. Some people, depending on their upbringing, may think, well, that one's the ultimate. No, there's no should, there's no ultimate. She's equal with all of them.
I love that were very specific that they're all equal, because I naturally was like, oh, that's where you want to be. This idea of enlightenment. And so you feel like that is the most important and that's what you're striving for, especially when we talk about chakras, right? Like where sometimes we think we need to start with the crown chakra because that's where we want to end up, right? Enlightenment and inner wisdom. But all of these things they build upon each other and they need the other ones to work properly. So what's one way you could feed this window if it's not your strength yet?
So, a lot of people, if this is not their strength, they're going to hate the idea of meditation. And so, what I tell people with some things not easy for you is to start super duper small. And so, don't sit down and think that you're going to just sit and think of nothing for 10 minutes straight. If this is not your strength, you're going to go, that sounds like torture. So, I would recommend just sitting and thinking of things you're grateful for 1 minute. That's it. And other things you can do, simple things, is picturing white light coming down through your head and just filling up your whole body. It's a very simple thing, but it helps you to start connecting this concept that there is something that is feeding your soul. And it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can just be white light. So and one of the things I did want to mention is we say the words high vibration. And again, we start to think of hierarchy. Like that must be better if it's higher. But I want to point out that while a lot of spiritual things are a very high vibration, so is anxiety. And anxiety happens when we stay in this high vibration too much and we're not grounding. That is why those lower chakras, those lower energies are so important, because they slow us down so that we're not like, you think of like when you do something really mental longer than you're used to, how you kind of feel almost jittery and like, so you're in a high vibration, but it's not grounded. But if you go outside and you breathe and you walk outside, you tend to start feeling better. It's because you're bringing in we need all of them. We need the whole rainbow.
I love it. I've never thought of it that way of, that anxiety is in that same capacity of like, I always think of it as like above my head. It feels out of body, right? When you're having a lot of anxiousness or feelings of stress, it feels almost out of touch. So that's a great point to talk about the grounding that we need. That it needs to be the full line. You can't see my whole hands, but all right. Next question or next window.
Wise intellectual. So she's fun. She's the one that prioritizes mental work. This is where that intelligence, that study, that book learning, that strategic thinking, that logical side, the left side of our brain. Left side and logical does not mean masculine. That's a very feminine version. There's a very feminine version of that mental capacity. Women can be so brilliant mentally, and it's fully within their feminine capacity. So some of the strengths of the wise intellectual is, like I mentioned, strategic. Strategic meaning she's thinking of how things will impact things long term. That could be very important in many different female capacities, whether it's in business, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're thinking ahead of things and be able to see the long term. Certainly is helpful in families and in relationships. Might not be quite as helpful in romantic relationships because there's so much unexpected. So you don't want to control too much of what's going on. But being able to plan ahead for, say, your children's future, things like that is very helpful. She's focused, she studies, she's a very good teacher, counselor, advisor, because she's just she'll analyze things and think through things. She's got a lot of experience in whatever field she goes into because she stays committed to it. She stays focused. Her intuition, like I mentioned earlier, there's different types of intuition. Her intuition seems like a gut feeling, and she might call it a gut feeling, but it's honestly just really rapid analysis based on experience. So it's just like she just knows where this is going to go because this is where it went before. And it's very fast, so she doesn't realize she's consciously doing it. She doesn't really compare herself with others because it's not logical. It's too emotional of a thing. She can be if she's in her strength side, She's in her positive window side. She can be very honest. She can be very direct, but it can be kind. And there's a sincerity to it. She's not trying to hurt anyone. There's no maliciousness. She should be very disciplined and organized. So all of you organizers out there that have lists upon lists upon lists, you probably have a very strong, wise intellectual in you. So on her shadow side, she can become prideful and judgmental, very critical. So that's when she's feeling fear, she's going to look around and she's going to find out what everyone around her is not doing correctly. So that's when that comes out again. Remember, the shadow side is when we're in fear. We can have compassion on someone who's afraid because we want to protect them, right?
Yeah.
So as far as oils go, this would be the third eye chakra blend. And any kind of mint oils, they're very enlivening for all of our senses. It clears up our sinuses. It just kind of clears up this whole area of the head. Peppermint is a great one. Wintergreen is also a great one. There's a lot of great ones for the third eye and for the wise intellectual. These ones, I'd be very careful how you use them because the location is near the eyes. You never want to really put minty or hot oils or spicy oils near sensitive areas of the body. And so if you're really wanting to use it, I would recommend either diffusing it. Probably diffusing it would be your best bet. If you are determined to get it somewhere near the head, I just go a little further away. So I wouldn't go in the actual location of the third eye because it's so close to your eyes. I'd go a little bit higher. But like I said, diffusing is a really good one. Just honestly, for anything, I love diffusing because it just gets it into the air. It gets it into my system without me having to worry about the exact delivery. So,
And it's the quickest way. It's very quick.
yeah.
So what's one way that you can feed this window?
So strange as it sounds, journaling.
Mm?
Journaling is actually a really great one. So journaling meaning writing down ideas that you might have and just kind of having a stream of consciousness about your day, about your thoughts, your feelings. So even though she's very thought oriented, putting things on paper helps her to feel strong and calm because it's methodical. It's taking the mess that we sometimes feel in the mind and making it concrete so that we can see it, we can solve it, we can figure it out. So journaling it, if you're not a big writer, even just speaking through like a journal, just a stream of consciousness, that's one of the many ways that you can feed her. Reading books, nonfiction books, because they are ones where they're going to feed your mind. Any way you can feed your mind are going to feed the wise intellectual.
That's wonderful. And one thing I did want to say is, you talk about, she's strategic and she's very focused. And all of these different traits that I think we naturally say are masculine or very boyish in a way. Like if you think about someone being very logical, strategic, you think of, well, maybe I shouldn't say everyone, but for me, like that meant it was kind of like a guy's thing. And some women were allowed to be that way, but not all women were that way. But this kind of brings in that we all get to be that way and we all have those different windows. And like you said, we get to switch between them really quickly. And even if it's not your strength, it is something that we can work towards to strengthen and to become better at.
Absolutely. And being a woman doesn't mean you have to be stupid.
No.
And that's like you said, that's the conditioning that has held us back as we've had to prove that we can be smart. But it has been, like you said, it's been misinterpreted as masculine. And it can seem very masculine when the wise intellectual, I'm just going to say this is like a little cheat this is actually something I talk about in my course, but when she's paired with, if your top two strengths are the wise intellectual and the independent seeker, then it's going to seem more masculine. And so anyone that those are their top two, they're just going to want to start feeding the other ones too, to bring in more love, to bring in kindness. And it's pairing. It's not getting rid of one and bringing in something you're not natural at. It's just simply saying, we're just going to bring a partner in. So I can still be honest and sincere and maybe even a little blunt, but I'm just going to bring in a little bit more conscientiousness and caring for where someone's at and what their mood might be today. I'm just going to make sure that I feed them and nurture them a little bit while I do this. So we're just partnering some kinder qualities so that we nurture them, so that we're whole and so we're looking out for the other people.
Mhm.
which really leads right into, I think, our last one. I think we just have one left. Oh, nope, we have two more. My favorite one's next.
Mhm.
Playful Innocent. This one is my favorite because she is one of my strong ones. But I love this meme. I found this on Facebook a while ago. It says, "Remember her? She's still there inside you waiting. Let's go get her."
Mhm.
So she is just full of fun and energy. She's got an innocence about her, but it has nothing to do with her life experience. You can see very strong, playful innocents who have had what you would consider their innocence stolen from them, who have had horrible trauma. So it's nothing to do with inexperience. She's
Mhm.
just able to keep that freshness, that unaffected, that belief in what can be, that belief in purity with her. Laughter is huge. So if you have a friend who laughs at everything all the time, then you have a playful, innocent friend. And they are so great to have around. She's very relational. She looks at how people relate, but how things connect and relate to each other. She has a
Mhm.
wonder and an awe. She's going to be the one, her and the passionate creator could probably stare at a sunset all day. Okay, they're going to love it and they're going to see the beauty in it. Now she's seeing it out of awe. Passionate creator is going to feel inspired and fed by it. She's just going to look at it and go, "Isn't that amazing? Look at how amazing that is." She's very positive and optimistic. So her mantra is going to be, "Why not? Like,
Mhm.
should we do this? Well, why not? Let's try it." High energy, open hearted, and trusting. She's like a magician. She'll find creative solutions because anything is possible to her. Anything is possible in that optimistic energy. So for her shadow side, she can go into insecurity and victim. She can be really uncertain about what people think of her, whether or not they like her, and she can go into a victim mode when she's in fear. And she relates to the throat chakra. And that one seems probably surprising, but you think about the throat chakra as a place of expression.
Mhm.
Expression and laughter. They both come from the throat chakra, and that's why the throat chakra is her spot. So we have our throat chakra blend. We also have our loads of fun blend, which is one of my husband's favorites. And then orange. Oranges and citruses are all very joyful and very uplifting. So they all kind of fit into that energy of joy, fun, play, all of those great things. So I love her, and it took me most of my life to realize that she was actually one of my strongest, because I thought I wasn't supposed to be her, because I was supposed to be responsible and I was supposed to be hardworking and I was supposed to be obedient. And so it took me a long time to realize that she was always in me as one of my strongest ones. And so I actually spent most of Christmas break laughing my head off with my 14-year-old son, making videos where you change your face and your voice. And we would just make them over and over and laugh our heads off. And some of his siblings would roll their eyes at us, but we had a great time.
That is so fun. And, that's so interesting that you say she was a strength, but you almost didn't want her to be a strength. So you just kind of like pushed her aside. And I think maybe that's something we all do a little bit about these ideas of what we're not supposed to be. So that was well said. And I'm glad that you have had the opportunity to really dive into being the playful innocent and leaning into that strength. How do you feed? Give me one way to feed her if she's not your strong suit.
Well, I'll give you two: laughter, and you can fake laugh. You'll get the same impact of fake laughing as you will real laughing. You'll probably end up laughing anyway. And also
Hmm.
surprises. So surprise someone with something. That the playful innocent loves surprises. She loves to surprise people. She loves to be surprised.
Hmm.
So find a way to surprise someone, even if it's just startling them, or even if it's leaving a gift when they don't expect it, or a note. Just finding ways to surprise.
So fun. I like it. I love a little surprise as well. So that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Last one.
Loyal leader. Yes, I love her too. She's one I've learned to develop. And I wanted to get a picture of a lioness with her cubs following behind her, but I wasn't able to find exactly what I wanted. So instead, I got one that I just thought embodied this sense of leadership and of strength. And one of the things that's so beautiful about the loyal leader, one of her greatest strengths, is that she looks out for what's best for the whole. So it's easy to kind of see, oh, well, isn't she kind of like the nurturer healer? Yes, but no, because the nurturer healer is just saying, I'm going to just show up and I'm going to just love you. And they're
Mhm.
focused on that moment of love. The loyal leader looks out for, well, what's best for the whole might not be what this person wants or even needs right now. That might not be best for the whole. So she has to make difficult decisions. She's in leadership a lot. She's very entrepreneurial. She's a force for good. She's conscientious. She's going to be checking out and kind of scanning her environment to see what the whole group needs. She will stick by a cause, so she has to be really careful what causes she takes on. She also filters easily. Because of her leadership skills, she's going to say no to things. She'll have to. So your nurturer healer is the one that's going to say yes to everything and get exhausted because she wants to serve and love. The loyal leader is going to say, hey, that doesn't work for me because I have to do what's best for everyone. And sometimes I have to do what's best for me so that I can serve. She has elegance, confidence. She's a very powerful presence. She's actually fairly rare to have someone that's their main one. She makes good decisions for herself and others. If people want to know what the best decision is, she's a good one to go to. So when she's in fear, though, she will go into micromanaging and controlling. And one of the things I just want to add as a really quick side note, I know we're just about out of time here, but I wanted to just add, she has to be careful about when she's in fear, the difference between being an advocate and a crusader. They're very different. An advocate looks out for what's best for the people that they are serving. A crusader stays true to the cause, even if it hurts the people that they're serving. And so she has to make sure she stays clear on that. And if she stays out of fear, she'll stay advocate. But when she goes into fear, she might start, and that's when she starts stepping on people along the way. So micromanaging, controlling, having a disconnected sense of what the people actually need is going to happen when she's in fear. And this one I have as a solar plexus because it is so much about that inner solid confidence. And like I said, it's rare because so many of us lack that. So many of us are so concerned about who we are and whether or not we matter. And the loyal leader, she knows who she is. She's very strong. She's very clear. And she's there to serve. And she's there to help and to give. And so we have the solar plexus blend. Also, another favorite of mine is the aligning blend. And then also helichrysum is an odd one. It's a strong one. So not everyone's going to love the smell. Some people love it. Some people don't. But that would be your single to go with this. And this one could go right on the solar plexus. That'd be my biggest recommendation. You also have a back solar plexus chakra, so you could put it directly on your back behind. And then obviously any of these that you want to diffuse, you can diffuse.
So you were mentioning that this is one that people most likely don't have this as their strength. So what are ways that we can help strengthen this one? I know this is one for me that I would love to strengthen. Like I think I'm always striving to get better at this, at becoming a leader.
Yeah. So it's in all of us. And what happens is something ends up having to activate it. Something brings it out in us. But we can do a lot of things to feed it. And one of the things that we can do to feed it is actually self-care. So taking care of our own self and making sure that we're nurtured, because that puts us in a better place to see what the needs of people are around us and to be able to see what's best for the whole, but not getting so caught up in it. And being able to evaluate. Sometimes saying no is a good practice to develop this loyal leader, because then you start to take a step back. For those who have a hard time saying no because they've got so much of the other gals in there, or the other windows, it can be because they're not looking at the whole picture. And so honestly, even like I will physically say, take a step back, like physically take yourself back, because that triggers your mind to go, oh, there's a bigger picture I need to be looking at. So looking at the big picture, you can practice this in weird ways, like just looking at a picture and scanning around the edges of it instead of just looking at the details. So
very, very interesting. I've loved that idea. I don't think I've ever thought of looking at the outside of a picture before. That's very literal, but that would help get into that mindset.
Yeah, it trains you. Things that you do physically train you to do the same thing emotionally. You can do it either direction.
Love it. So those were all 7 windows. And before we get into the last of the 14-week course and the offers that we have for you, one thing that I thought of while we were going through all of these is, how these windows interact with each other. Are there any notes you have on maybe if you have like family members that have strengths in certain sides? Are there certain windows that work better with each other than others, and ways to maybe interact with them?
Well, that is a really, really, really good question, and I don't think we have time for me to answer it
Okay.
adequately because that is something that I go through. I mean, we spend 2 hours a week on each one of the windows, plus a half an hour Q&A every
Mhm,
other week, and so there's a lot, but there are pairings that are very helpful.
mhm,
So anytime you have some that are very more serious, like maybe you're independent seeker and you're wise intellectual,
mhm,
bringing the fun ones in,
mhm,
bringing the passion in. So bringing in your playful innocent, strengthening your passionate creator, because it helps create that balance between them. But
mhm,
ultimately, my goal is that we all strengthen all of them. I think that I have my dominant ones, but they are not nowhere near as separated as they used to be. And the more integrated I am, the better my relationships get, the better my finances get, the better
mhm,
my own mental health gets. Everything improves as I become more integrated because I know which part of me do I need to bring and when.
mhm,
Instead of feeling like, we get trapped in this, well, that's just the way I am. Well,
mhm,
no, you don't have only one way to you. We are such multidimensional beings. And so it's about saying, well, being aware. So if you found one of these today that you were like, that one doesn't sound like me at all, start finding tiny ways of feeding it because it could be that that's where the imbalance is in your life. And it's bringing in that laughter, that playfulness, or maybe it's bringing in more. Maybe you're all play and maybe you're all play and passion, and you to bring in some more focus. And so you
mhm,
bring in the different ones. And there are pairings that work really well. I always think that the loyal leader and the nurture healer really need to work together, and they work
mhm,
together really well.
mhm.
Um, and without the other one, they could be a little imbalanced. But there's a lot of pairings that are like that.
It's about bringing that whole boardroom together. Everyone has a part to play in success, and I love that idea. Visualizing 7 really kick-A people sitting around a
Yes.
boardroom, and having a full conversation. I love that idea. So I'll bring up your slides again because I know you wanted to go a little bit over the course with us.
Yes. Yep. So it's a 14-week program. It actually starts this week. We learn how to listen to every part of you. You learn there's language patterns that correlate to each one. There's also ways that it ties into relationships, intimacy, financial abundance, manifestation, body confidence, overcoming anxiety and depression for good, and more. Now that sounds like a lot, but here's the deal. I don't make promises that I don't keep. And so we really do cover all of these topics because I am personally on a mission to help as many people get rid of anxiety and depression as I possibly can. And
Mhm,
so this is something where we dig deep. It's a 2-hour class every other week on Thursday nights. And then on the other off weeks, we have a Q&A call on Saturday. And I'm kind of skipping all over. We also talk about movement because physically, this is something that I teach in the course. What happens, the last place we store things is in the body. So we actually move differently when we're in each one of the windows.
mhm,
And so understanding how we can incorporate them into our bodies so they're easy to switch between, and also creating safety around all types of movement. Women who have had a lot of trauma may feel really scared about that idea. And so we learn how to create safety around them, even around sensual movement, which comes up for the passionate creator, and how that relates. Understanding that part of us absolutely relates to creativity and financial success. And so that's all of this is through Zoom. I have also a private online group right now. I have it on Telegram, but I'm seeing if I like that platform or not because I'm trying to get out of Facebook groups. But
mhm,
it's a group where I'll give also tasks that people can do to help them embody each window, and then also support and Q&A, and that's something that there's forever access to. And so for those who want to know about registering for this course, I will talk about the pricing. And that is, let me pull up, that's $3,000 for the course. There's some bonuses that I will give out for those who register by midnight tomorrow night. One of them is full year access to my subscription program. And what that is every month you get a video that has movement for a specific purpose. So we've done movement where it's helping activate feminine energy. We've done movement for manifestation. This month's is all about letting go of the old from last year and integrating your goals for this new year. And it's something where you do the movement every day, and you also have affirmations that go with it. And normally that's $25 a month, so that you get a full year access to that. I will also, another bonus I give is one 30-minute one-on-one call with me where we map out your blueprint. Like, we'll tell you what percentage you are of each one. You fill out a form and it comes out with what percentage, and that tells you which ones you need to work on. We also tie it into what your goals are for the year so that you can get the absolute most out of the course. And that's $1,000 value. There's also a bonus class. So any of you who've gone into personal development know that you will get all hyped up and excited. And then you go back to your family and they're like, who are you and why are you acting so crazy? So what I'm going to do is at the end of the 14-week course, I'm offering a class for as many friends as family as you would like to invite. So it's unlimited people. And I will just do like a quick overview of what you learned. And I will also teach them about who you are and how to interact with you and give them bonus material there. And that's a $300 value. And I also have one more bonus, and that is a money back guarantee. And what that means is if you come to the first class, you have to come to the class live and attend the whole class. And you end the class and you go, you know what? This is not what she promised. I don't like it. I'll give you a whole refund. So that is because I know I stand behind what I do. And I know that it's absolutely worth your time and money. So the value is $4,600. But for those who register by midnight tomorrow night, I'm offering 15% off of the original price of $3,000. Plus, you'll get all the bonuses for free. So that takes your price to $2,550. I'm trying to be conscious of time. That's why I'm talking so fast. So we've got the website here, but we'll put it in the comments so you can have the link. And then you just use the coupon RMO Friends. So that's for Rocky Mountain Oil's Friends. I don't think it matters if it's all caps, but the way I put the coupon code in is all caps. And that'll get you the 15% off. And if you are in need of a payment plan, you will need to reach out to me and we can go over that. So there you go. That's my course. It starts this. Oh, and I did forget to say, if you can't attend sessions live, you will have access to the Zoom or to the video of the Zoom call for 7 days after the class. And the reason I say only 7 days is I don't want you to get a buildup of 7 classes that you're behind on, because then you'll just give up. So it puts a little bit of pressure on there so that you keep up with the course. I'm super excited. I've already got the first week all planned out with the content, and it is going to be a very powerful class. And yeah, thank you so much for all of those of you who watched for this whole webinar. And hopefully you feel like you've been a little fire hosed, which means I did my job, because I love to give you way more information than you expect. And I'm very excited. I love this stuff. I've seen the way it's changed my own relationship with my husband and with my children and with pretty much everyone around me. And it's shifted everything in my life for the better. And so I am just excited to share this with as many people as I can.
No, I love it. And I don't know if we mentioned this starts on Thursday, January 6th, correct? So just a few more days, 3 days. And this is something that us at Rocky Mountain Oils have had the pleasure of being able to learn little pieces here and there, because Phoenix, she shares her wisdom and her knowledge that she's gained over many years of different coaching and her master's degree. And we do these mental health moments. And each of these little things that we're taught have had huge impacts, not just in our work, but in our own personal lives. And so I just wanted to say, this is something that I think everyone could really learn from and take valuable information and be able to apply it organically into their life. So
yeah. And one of my favorite things that I include in here, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but one of my favorite things is teaching people how to quickly get out of shadow side for every single one of the windows. So it's quick, it's easy, and it's integrated into your body, so it's reflexive. So you don't have to stay in victim or manipulation or controlling or micromanaging or rage. You don't have to stay in it unless you want to, but I mean, everyone has free will.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't want to. Life is much better outside of the shadows. So, well, Phoenix, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and hopefully we'll have you on Facebook Live again soon. Yay. And thank you, everyone who watched. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and either I or Phoenix will make sure that we reach out to you. So thank you again, and everyone have a wonderful night. Bye.